In today's video, we're going to be taking a deep dive into this chance that is still there for a snowstorm. We've talked about it a couple of days in a row here. There is a chance at a snowstorm, although that chance isn't looking as good as it once did. It is still there. We have colder air on the way until the 25th, but warmer, more spring-like air, even warm to hot for some folks, coming up after the 25th, where we will get a hint at springtime. It's going to feel like spring and be very, very nice. So we're going to talk about that in today's video. Let's dive into things. And we're going to take a look at later on tomorrow afternoon, where we're going to have pretty much a lack of activity for the east. You know, it's a little cooler tomorrow, but nothing around as far as precipitation, so that's why they get the big X. We do have this storm onshore for the west, though, a minor one, but it is causing widespread precipitation. We have some rainfall happening along the coast there and for lower elevations. Even inland here in lower elevations, we're seeing rainfall. Some flurries here for the Cascades as well as the Sierra Nevada, and then up here for the Rockies, where we're having some flurries and snow showers for those mountainous areas. It's really Wednesday where we see things pick up, and it's all due to this 1,002 low right here. So we have some heavier snowfall throughout portions of Utah and into southern Wyoming. Still some ongoing snow showers for these West Coast mountainous areas. It's by the time we reach Thursday where we're finally talking about some activity here in the east. We have a 999 low pressure system, a very minor cold front underneath, and a more major warm front up here to the north, where we see warm air and humid air prevailing around that 20-second time frame. I'm expecting mostly showers here in this northern corridor, although some severe weather and thunderstorm chances here to the west and south of this low pressure system. So we're going to be watching for that activity again as we get more spring-like weather kind of apparent in these areas. Now we have a 995 by the time we're reaching Friday afternoon on February 23rd. Cold air is sinking here for the east. And again, the timing is still a little messed up, where we have this cold air just moving in, but the storm is in perfect position already. We would need this storm to be a little bit delayed or the cold air to move in quicker, which every single day that goes by where we don't see this expected, it's becoming less and less really probable to happen. So the clock is ticking. We need to see change here over the next 24 hours to maybe 48 hours, or at least progressive small changes leading up to this storm, in order for this one to look more like a snowstorm. I am ready to confirm that from yesterday to today, we have seen some of those subtle changes begin to happen. Now, does that mean that we are going to be heading in that direction constantly over the next 48 hours? No, the models could rebound and start showing rainier, warmer solutions here. But we have taken that first step. And, you know, if we see step 2 and step 3 take place, we could start moving in the right direction for a snowstorm to occur here. We have taken a small step here, but we need some big changes. Now, there is a thunderstorm chance here underneath, so keep that in mind. Heavier rainfall overall. So at least heavy showers, but thunderstorms are possible here, especially along the North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida areas of that storm. To the north, we see some snowfall for New York and New England. So definitely, again, has moved in a better, more snowier direction if you're a cold and snow lover. But the cold is really primed for this storm right around Saturday morning into Saturday afternoon, but the storm has already moved out by that time frame. We have pretty brutal cold air along the east, and it's even more apparent when you look here where we do have some snow showers around for Kentucky and the Appalachian Mountain Range here, kind of the Smoky Mountains, I should say, of North Carolina and Tennessee. So definitely very interesting. Meanwhile, the cause of all of this is really this high pressure system and warmer air trending for the west. So as this surges northward, we have this high right here in the middle. This is called a positive PNA. I talk about this almost daily, and really we're seeing a lot of this cold air sink into the east as a result of this. This is my most useful teleconnection to use that really illustrates what that pattern is going to look like in the United States, and it works almost every single time. When you see that warm air surging northward for the west, you're going to see the cold air that was in place sink to the east almost, I would say, 9.5 times out of 10, maybe even more. For Sunday here on the 25th, we see the storminess has moved out of the east. We're left over with some pretty cold air along the east, very far east this time around, kind of centered over the east coast there. And we do have some signs that some storms and cold returning to the west. This is going to be the beginning of what causes the warm air to surge in the east after the 25th. So let's keep going. We're going to take this towards Monday, and what we see happening is a trough beginning to develop out west, so a negative PNA And instantly, almost, we see the warm air surging for the central and beginning for the eastern states there. And then we have this cold air sinking out west with some snowfall heavier in some spots for the Cascades and Northern Rockies there, as you can see. So definitely a very interesting pattern. Let's take this towards Tuesday on the 27th, and what we see is an even more dramatic version of what we've been talking about. That trough is beginning to become stronger. That snowfall is becoming more prevalent throughout the Cascades here, the Rockies, and into the northern plains as well here. And then what we have happening is right around the middle mark of the lower 48, warm air is prevailing for a lot of these eastern counterparts. This is a classic negative PNA pattern. Meanwhile, we have a 990 millibar low pressure center developing here for the plains, somewhere near Nebraska and Kansas. We have thunderstorms and severe weather starting up underneath this low for areas like Missouri, Illinois, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana. We've talked about this for a couple of days as well, as these thunderstorms and overall storms develop. Now things begin to look even stronger as this trough becomes centered over the central states. We have a 978 millibar low pressure center located over kind of the eastern areas of Canada, I would say. Heavy snowfall here to the west of that low for areas of Canada here, and then also the upper peninsula of Michigan into Wisconsin. Meanwhile, to the south, we have a secondary low here, so something like this is what's shaping up, and really it's just a cold front extending down all the way to the Gulf of Mexico, and then a warm front up here for the east. So we have very warm air surging in the east here, humid air, and very brutal cold air swinging underneath. So this could be a very decent severe weather setup for these areas here. I expect at least strong thunderstorms along this line, especially in Tennessee, the deeper south here as well, but maybe even extending northward into the Ohio Valley and some of the eastern states here. That's kind of something that we need to really find out about over time. And as we head towards overnight, Wednesday into Thursday, we can see that this reaches the eastern states, where I also think thunderstorms will be possible in this corridor, if not heavier showers, followed by colder air. So this is the very end of the model run. We still have this primary low up to the north, but a pretty strong secondary low down here with cold air around. So potentially kind of more of an interior snowfall event here for some of the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, and into the interior eastern states. And keep in mind, this cold air heads eastward. Look at what's happening out west. Again, a massive ridge is really the cause of this once again. So we have this warm air surging for the west, and that's what really caused that cold to sink eastward alongside that cold front that's helped kind of navigate everything through. So very interesting, very dramatic pattern moving ahead. Let's take a look at the GFS model here. And I really want to move us towards the more debatable stuff. So let's just jump right to this upcoming storm system. We have the low here ahead of the cold air. We get a little bit of a northeastern kind of light to moderate snowstorm by the kind of the weekend, Friday into Saturday, and then the cold air is centered over the east a little bit too late behind that snowstorm. But again, versus yesterday's model runs, we have seen these two we talked about yesterday. The timing of them is about a day off. It's moved to where it's now about 18 hours off. It's getting a little closer. If we can get that closer and closer and closer, what's going to happen is that it's going to look snowier and snowier and snowier as a result. So that's why we're watching so closely for these changes. We have that storminess, heavy storms and cold for the west prevailing around the 25th, 26th, 27th, with that kind of stronger storm developing over the middle of the United States with thunderstorms and showers around, also developing south of it as well. So kind of the same story here. We see that cold front develop, but not quite as strong. It does reach the eastern states by Thursday on the 29th. Let's keep going. And we really get a colder pattern overall in the east for a little bit here, with warmer out west to begin things in March. And we saw that on the GFS model here that we are taking a look at now yesterday, and we're seeing it again today. But I want to show you something at the end of the video that kind of contradicts this. So we're going to take a look at a differing opinion in just a little bit. But let's dive into the total precipitation real quickly. We have heavy totals out west because, again, after the 25th, we reach a very stormy point out here. So this is going to mean a ton of snowfall for the Cascades, Sierra Nevada down here, and also the Rockies. So keep that in mind. And then we also get this kind of surging spring-like activity for the east as we see a lot of Gulf energy, humidity, warmth prevailing. So expect heavier storms to move into the east with this warmer pattern after the 25th. Total snowfall on the European model is no surprise that there's a ton out west. We get that heavy storm around that upper Midwest area, and this is going to be very exclusive for northern Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, and the upper peninsula of Michigan, if it even occurs. So keep that in mind as well. And then mostly lighter snowfall opportunities for the east, if any. GFS model really agrees. We get that heavy amount out west. Northern plains get a little bit more here. And then we also get that kind of exclusive upper Midwest stronger snowstorm, which we will dive into over the coming days. But really the rest of the east is just lighter amounts for the most part. So very strong agreement between this and this. Locations are a little bit off, but it's the same idea. You can kind of get the gist. Now, this is the differing opinion. I want to take a look at our European ensemble model's temperature anomalies. So what we can see is that it is turning warmer here for the 21st, 22nd, 23rd. We get that next cool down, which does cool down the east here around that 24th, 25th time frame. Meanwhile, we have very warm temperatures for the west here. And again, that causes the cold to really spill in for the east around that 24th, 25th time frame. But very quickly, once we reach the 25th, 26th, we see warm air prevailing in the east. And again, it's all due to these colder temperatures out west. This allows for the warm air to really reign free over most of the eastern half of the nation. That really keeps going all the way through the end of the model run here, all the way to the 5th. And this is exactly when the GFS model started to show warmth in the west and cold in the east. But what we see here on the European ensemble model is warmth in the east, cold in the west, continuing all the way through the beginning week of March here. So I have to side here with this European ensemble model over the GFS model because the European ensemble model tends to be very reliable. It is an ensemble model, which as a whole makes it more reliable than a deterministic model in the long range. And I'm getting a little bit technical here, but follow with me. A deterministic model is 1 to maybe 4 models put together, and usually it's not very reliable because it's just one kind of equation done, and it goes through the entire model run. This ensemble model here has 20 to 30 members, and it's taking the mean average of all of those opinions and putting it into one. And in the long range, you want to have those opinions all put together to get a more accurate representation of what to expect. Keep in mind that of those 20 and 30 models, we have slightly differing mathematics put into them, so they're a little bit different from one another in order to get different opinions to put together into one. So obviously when you're getting the opinion of 30 models versus, let's say, 1 to 4, you're going to go with the 30 to 20 to 30, of course, in the long range. But more opinions there is going to help out a lot, and that's why ensemble models are oftentimes used like this in the long range. So I tend to think that we're going to stick in a negative PNA with colder out west, storms as well. Total snowfall is going to be extreme from February 1st all the way through March, I believe. Out west, it's going to be very snowy. We're already halfway through that time frame almost. And then I think warmth is really going to prevail here after the 25th time frame and beyond well into March. So I think spring is going to be early this year. I think March is going to look very spring-like, and we're going to take that straight into April and May. Tends to be my long-range thinking here. Keep in mind, long-range thinking is something that should be taken with a grain of salt, and of course we will update you guys daily on our thoughts, but for the most part, this is currently where things stand. I tend to agree more with this than just the normal deterministic GFS model in the long range. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe as we do upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.